All right, we are back on the death lineup after a game 5 that we called for the Warriors, but probably weren't too confident in our call because we saw this the entire season with them having a lead somewhere that is not their home and then giving it up. And they kind of tried at the end. Like there was a Steph threw a ball to Draymond, like to let Draymond bring the ball up, and it was like this lazy pass that almost got stolen. Then Draymond fired a pass that went to the other side of the court for a foul. But I think the Kings actually made more mistakes down the stretch. And I think some of it was probably had a lot to do with De'Aaron Fox's finger, which we'll get to. But overall, what were your what is your immediate sort of reaction to what we just watched?
Like, I obviously don't want to jinx it, but I've been saying that it's been kind of biased of how I've been saying it because I think that if the Warriors won game 5, like the series was over. I thought that they'll just go to chase, win a game 6. They've proven they could win on the road. This was a wake-up call to the league if they were to win a game 5 that they could win on the road, and the Warriors are coming. And on the other hand, I thought if Sac won a game 5, I thought that, okay, well, neither team is proving that they could win at each other's home court. Sac has more of the home games. I still think the Warriors could potentially get it done in 7, but I'm just leaning I don't want to jinx it, but Warriors 1-5, and I think I think it's over.
Well, that was the hypothesis, right? And we were, the math says the first, the team that wins the road game and gets to go home to finish it out. It says that that's probably a good scenario for the Warriors. Still, though, the Kings did not look deflated. They looked inspired at the end of the game. It's just unfortunately for them, they could not get anything out of their main guy. I don't know what Fox shot in the fourth quarter, but I thought he was
good.
I thought he was great in the first half. They showed a moment on the telecast where Steph did his little thing where he's kind of going between guys and he's setting up something, and Fox was able to poke the ball out, and they actually got a turnover. But then he was shaking his finger pretty much for the rest of that play, and then from then on out, I'm not sure if he actually scored. He had a couple of threes that he missed. He even had one of those. I think it may have been even 2. He had those little runners. I know Looney got 1. Andrew may have gotten 1 as well. So late in the game, it did look like that finger affected him. But why don't we go to our major takeaways here? So for me, takeaway number 1, and this is going to be my spoiler, player of the game as well. I thought Draymond was the best player on the court today.
I feel like he could choose from like 4 of them, 5 of them even. I thought everyone had between. I mean, you go on your Dre spiel, but I think that Clay, you could have said it for him, just being alive at the right moment. Andrew Wiggins, I thought this was his best game of, maybe the stats weren't his best game, but I thought his energy and his defensive, awareness and just his defensive presence as a whole, I thought you could have called for him. Obviously, Looney with the whole 22 rebounds, 15 defensive rebounds. What is that? 7 offensive rebounds. And then obviously Steph. And I thought Jordan Poole had like a pretty, shooting wasn't great, but I liked his energy and I liked his fast break stuff with Steph.
So Big Leo chimed in to remind us what he called
it
after game 2 when the Warriors were down 6. He
said
4
they're winning 4 straight.
So Big Leo called that, and I just want that on record. We'll continue to have that on record. And Mark Nobita I have a group chat with some friends in which Mark Nobita is also in, and Mark was very confident. I was like going like, oh man, this is like the recipe for the Warriors to lose games. They're just doing it right now. They're like, nope. And Nobita was saying the Warriors are going to win. He thought, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. In that fourth quarter, the foul calls were way one way. The Warriors got 2 take fouls. The Kings had no fouls. Like it was. I didn't even think of it when I was watching it, but Mark mentioned it in the chat. He's like, man, they're not calling any fouls on the Kings. Some of it may have been just the Warriors' possessions were like super deliberate. And okay, so going back to the Draymond thing, there was a moment in this game where I thought Steph was wiped out. It's like maybe it's like the 4 or 5 minute mark. You could just tell like he didn't really want to bring up the basketball because it was too much chaos. And I don't know if you noticed, but they went away from Mitchell late in the game. They took him out probably because he's bricking 3-pointers, but it was Fox and Steph. And Fox defensively was hanging with him. And I thought, man, Steph just looks so tired. And they had these possessions where all the stuff that they were doing because Steph was tired and that action, that handoff, and that split. And Draymond would end up with the ball and he would have to make a decision on the scoring situation. And he hit that little Dirk 1-foot fadeaway. And I was like, this is just his game. He dictated maybe the most underrated play of the game because it was offensively and defensively he dictated. There was a moment where he had to go out. I think it was to HB in the corner, or maybe it was to Monk, and his back was turned.
I know, yeah.
And they threw the pass in the corner, and Dre didn't even really see it, but because he has very long arms, his hand hit the ball. And I was like, good play, out of bounds, Kings ball, do it again. And he kept that basketball in bounds, and they got the steal. And I was just like, man, this guy is on a different level. And I don't know if you heard the Simmons podcast, but he was talking about having regret for the defensive player of the year and how, Draymond's just the best defender. And I don't know. He just dictated everything tonight.
He is.
I'm just like, man, this guy is so good at basketball. And 21 points. They said this is the last time he had scored over 20 points before this was Christmas 2019 against the Rockets, and he remembered that game because he's like, yeah, we were trashed that year, but we beat Houston on Christmas. So I don't know. I just I didn't know what I was watching. The guy was just so like, we've seen Apex Draymond, we've seen Defensive Player of the Year Draymond, and he's just doing it in different ways now. Like he's guarding Fox and he's getting out to the corner, and then he's playing free safety and he's getting steals, and it's just like, gosh, I can't even imagine what watching basketball without this guy would be like.
I 100% with you. I think what's crazy is that, like, aren't these guys supposed to be getting worse? Like, with age, you're going down from the top of the hill, and they just keep, Draymond has this type of night where, this might have been a top 5 playoff night for him. Like you said, like, I think it's wild. Like, I know they went to Draymond on Jaylen Brown in the finals. Like, that was an adjustment they made. But Fox just, like, Draymond's, such a great help side defender, playing the free safety, reading the defense, being the quarterback of the defense, putting everyone in the right place, and then going up straight up to contest someone at the rim. But when it came to like guarding the perimeter and moving his feet, he moves his feet, but it's just kind of harder to keep up with those quicker guys. Like he hasn't always been like, I call Draymond the greatest defender I've ever seen in my lifetime, but I'd say, GP2, Wiggins are probably both better perimeter defenders, I'd say, than Draymond. But I don't know, man. He's testing that for me too. Like, I just can't believe that he's able to, you put him on Fox on top of everything else he already does defensively. I think that they still don't know how to calculate Defensive Player of the Year. They finally stopped doing blocks and steals as the main primary reason to get that award. And I still feel like they don't have the formula down, because I think Draymond's the best defensive player in this league. I think, he played almost all 82, right? Like, he played the majority of the games this season. And I felt like just because he didn't have Wiggins or GP2 for the entire year, that defensive rating was what, top, I don't know, it was like number 10 maybe. Like, if those guys were there, we're talking about a number 1 defensive rating. We're talking about an easy defensive player of the year for him to win. It just felt like, because the Cavs were number 1 in defense, Evan Mobley's an easy one to pick, and then Jaren Jackson Jr., that guy has defenders with him. As much as we poop on Dylan Brooks, the guy's a good defender.
By the way, you know what my tea is called that I'm drinking? Night tea.
Oh, that's good.
No, actually, it's called nighty.
Put you to bed.
It's called nighty night tea, but close enough. What was your major takeaway?
I think my takeaway. See, you took a good one, but I think my takeaway. I don't know. I've been on a Loon high. I've just been loving me some Loon. That guy, man. Like when I think there was something on Warriors Twitter, maybe before the series started, or maybe after game one, where you start ranking like the greatest Warriors role players, like fan favorites.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was Sam who had it, but someone had Looney one, and I had to think about it. Like over Sean, like they didn't count Iguodala as a role player because he has like a Finals MVP and he was so
Yeah.
essential to that core. But Sean Livingston was a part of it. Mo Spates was a part of it. David West was a part of it. Uh, Trying to think of some of the other, JaVale McGee was a part of it. Like all those guys, and Loon was number one. And I fully agree with that right now. Like this guy, I want his jersey. I want a Loon shirt, pants, shoes, whatever I can get. I want Loon. 22, what is it? 22 rebounds. I just think that, I feel like a major question mark for this team was going to be when they ran into like the John Morants or when they ran into the guy, like those guards who attack the rim so heavily. Like we're missing that rim protector. We're missing what Wiseman was supposed to hopefully be for us this year. I felt like that was going to be tough, but I don't know. Looney and Draymond just have been totally holding down that front court. And I'm just surprised that, Fox's injury, of course, plays into a little bit of it, but that shooting splits for him, it was like 9 for 25 or something like that. And, just so much, God, they're just doing everything right. They're doing everything right. And it's
Looney out rebounded their entire front court.
And that doesn't surprise me.
His 22 rebounds. Sabonis only had 10. I say only. I mean, he had 10. Keegan had 6, and Harrison, the invisible man, Harrison Barnes, he had only 3. What is up with Harrison Barnes?
I don't know, man, but I love Mike Brown, coach of the year, but it's starting to feel like he's getting a little too stubborn. Like it feels like there are some guys that he hasn't made any changes. There are
who do you go to if you're Barnes? I mean, if you're Mike Brown.
That is a good question.
I guess
they tried Terrence Davis in game 3.
You could go Monk in the starting lineup, but he's kind of like your 6th man. He's your instant offense off the bench.
That's why I was saying Davion in the starting lineup, just giving you a primary Steph defender.
2 of 8 from 3-point land for Davion.
Davion had a rough night. But yeah, I mean, you're right. There isn't much for him to try, but something, right? Jeez. I don't think anything's been changed. Same guys are getting the same amount of minutes every single game. It's just rolling with your guys.
Yeah, I just kind of wonder if you were to run Mitchell, Fox, Monk, and maybe play Barnes at the 4. I maybe play Keegan because Keegan started off great, but do you know that this dude only had 5 shots?
I know that's crazy to me. He started off great, and yeah, like you said, not like maybe it's him he moved to the bench. I feel like you potentially figured out like, okay, I feel like his head's in the series. He's probably not going to put up another stinker. Maybe it's him who moves to the bench. He doesn't take it as a confidence hit, and then you just move HB down to the 4, and then bring in another one of those guards. I don't know, something, but.
Herter only played 16 minutes, so it's not like Brown just stubbornly played him. He just played him sort of at the start of the first and the start of the third, and I think that was it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but he made a 3 finally, and then he had a couple open ones, and it just didn't fall. They collectively they only shot 10 of 34 from 3, 29.4%. The Warriors were not any better. They were actually worse. They were 11 of 38, 28.9. Steph was off tonight from 3. He had some good looks too. I just I just thought, man, this guy must be tired because he's missing these wide open shots. But Clay picked up the slack for him. I thought we didn't quite get the Marcus Thompson Clay game. Marcus said it was coming. We didn't quite get the Clay game, but I think we had a good enough Clay game. 5 of 11 from 3. Clay was the top plus minus guy for the Warriors at plus 14, but he was also in foul trouble pretty much all night long. And Wiggins, another excellent game for Wiggins. Wiggins, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Draymond, 4 steals and 1 block. 7 assists for Draymond, 7 assists for Loon, 6 assists for Poole, and 8 assists for Curry. So they were moving the basketball. 33 assists for the Warriors, only 22 for the Kings.
It was pretty close at the half too, which was interesting. Like I was looking at the game totals at the half, the game summary part of the NBA app, and the assists were like, I think the Warriors had them by like 2. It was like 16-14 at the half or something like that. The plus minus stat sometimes tricks us.
Yeah.
I was going to say one of my takeaways was going to be how essential I thought Gary Payton GP2 played tonight. Like it felt like he was going to be, once I looked at the stats, I was like, okay, he's probably going to be like top 3 in plus minus. And he was just a zero.
He was a
I
zero.
think a lot of that
He was
probably is
even.
because he plays in a lot of non-Steph minutes.
Well, the thing
But
about it is the Warriors went on like a 12-0 run with Steph on the bench or something like that. So actually, if you look at how the game ended, Steph was only a +4. So it's not like Steph had the crazy plus minus that he usually had. I think the bench actually held up pretty well during those non-Steph minutes for the first time all series.
yeah, and it felt like GP2 was a big part of it. I thought that he was just playing tremendous defense. And on the other end, just playing that dunker spot. Like it feels like he's not going to miss at the rim. And then his putback too, like all this putbacks he does, like I just think he fits the role perfectly. They wouldn't, I don't think they'd be in the spot they're in if they hadn't made that Wiseman trade and hadn't acquired him.
Yeah, Kerr. We talked about this with our buddy Ben Cruz in our text message stuff. Kerr went to DiVincenzo and Moody early, and neither guy was aggressive. Neither guy really was looking to get in the mix. And then GP came in, and then he wasn't really aggressive either. There's a lot of rebounds that came off long that he was just kind of chilling on the perimeter that I thought he could have grabbed early on. And they went back to DiVincenzo a little bit, did not go back to Moody. Kerr only gave Moody that first 4-minute stint. But then he did go back to GP, and in the second half, GP was excellent. 6 rebounds. Thankfully, the one blemish is the accidental undercutting of Monk, and
Yeah.
Monk may have hurt his hamstring. Hopefully, he's okay. But that looked scary when you saw it in real time. But yeah, GP was awesome, and he had that one dunk that he usually gets one of those a game where and this was Keegan Murray's fault, right? So Loon gets the ball near the free throw line, and he's kind of coming downhill, and Keegan Murray slides over to try and take a charge on Loon, and he leaves Gary Payton in the corner, probably thinking like, he doesn't really make that shot that much. But instead, Gary Payton starts coming down. He starts coming down for the alley-oop, and Keegan Murray's like taking a charge from nobody because no one was there. He's just like, my bad. So yeah, that play was excellent, and I don't know it's not something that they go to often, and maybe Gary Payton is best in spurts. He's best in playing less than 20 minutes a game. He's hounding Fox, but man, the one takeaway, if I'm a Kings fan, the one thing I really love is Malik Monk just going to the bucket. Like the Warriors couldn't stop that. And he's like throwing up these wild, crazy layups, and they're just going in. Like he was on fire tonight. And so you have that knowing, he's offensively, if you need it, he's going to be there. But as we've seen in this series, he has not been consistent. He has the one good game, and then the next game he's not as good. So I wonder if he kind of burned it all tonight. We'll see what happens on Friday.
That's what I was worried about, is that when Malik got going, it was like, okay, if Fox is going, like this is not going to be good for the Warriors in the fourth quarter. And Fox never really got going in the fourth quarter. I think every time Malik and Fox were going in the fourth quarter, I think they've won. So Malik, like I was texting in my group chat, I was like, Malik Monk is really good. He does the same thing every time.
Mm-hmm.
He drives hard right and just kind of like elevates above everyone else and makes these really tough contact finishes. But I felt like Wiggs finally read one and just and blocked them late in the game. But he kind of just does the same thing every time, and that's when you could tell they're really good. Is like, even I think the Warriors know what he's going to do, and they couldn't stop it. Like when he takes Loon, Loon's not totally trying to block it; he's just trying to stay vertical, and that doesn't phase Monk. Monk's just like, okay, that didn't really phase Fox either for the most part. I think that's why you had to throw Draymond on him to get a little more physical. But yeah, those guys, those guys finish through contact.
All right, so I already mentioned who my player of the game was. Who are you going to go with for your player of the game?
Man, Draymond's my guy. I'm gonna go Wiggins. I'm telling you, you could choose from anyone. I just felt like this was the game.
Their
Like
entire starting five. So you go actually
switch Draymond and Poole.
Yeah, switch Draymond and Poole. So you're ending five. Clay had 25, Andrew had 20, Steph had 31, Draymond had 21, and Loon had 4 points, but the 22 rebounds. So any one of those five, I think you could look at as player of the game.
I think so too. And you could say a valid reason as to why they should be player of the game too. I'm going with Wiggs though, just because he might not have been the best player for the Warriors tonight, but I thought he was one of the most important, and being that they needed him defensively and they needed him. He hit some tough shots down the stretch. It's like, oh my God, I forgot we have a guy on our team that could actually do that stuff.
He took one of those shots when the Warriors were bricking, and I was like, oh, nope, that went in. I was just thinking, oh, here's another brick, and they're going to start going on the other. Oh, Wiggs, step back, little step back. Nah, it's so fun to see him. And this is a different version. We talked about it. His regular season version versus the playoff version is like a different guy. The guy's just turned up for whatever reason. Like he can't turn it up in the regular season.
Yeah. I mean, not to get I don't want to get ahead of myself, but if you, I don't know if we're going to talk about a little bit about some of what else is going on in the NBA. Yeah. The Bucks lost.
Yeah. Miami.
The Bucks are out. The 8th seed won, the first 8th seed since probably that Chicago Bulls team that lost D Rose in the first game. But like, this is what I keep trying to say, is that this is wide open. The Warriors stop messing around.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can go through it.
Talk about who are, with the Bucks out, who are the top teams?
It's the Celtics, but they just lost again to the Hawks. It's like it feels like there's no front runner anymore. I thought that this was the Bucks championship to lose. That's how high I was on the team. And I thought Giannis missed 3 games. I think that if Giannis plays all the games, they probably win the series. I think they just went 2 down when he was out. They messed around in a game when he came back, and then they just couldn't pull themselves out of the hole. They dug themselves in. But now that the Bucks are out, the Celtics are the ones to beat, and they're looking like they're having problems with the Atlanta Hawks, who they killed in the regular season, who they had no issues with in the regular season. That was the one series where I was like, if I'm going to bet on a sweep, it's going to be that one. Like, I just thought they were going to handle business over there. And on the Western Conference side, you could tell me any of the potential teams to go into the next round. Like, you could tell me for sure Denver and Phoenix are the for sure round. You could tell me that Denver is going to the finals, I'd believe you. You could tell me that Phoenix is going to the finals, I'd believe you. You could tell me that the Warriors are going to the finals, I'd believe you. You could tell me that the Lakers are going to the finals, and I'd believe you. I just feel like it's so wide open right now. I don't want to be on my couch sitting there all sad because my team just messed around and didn't make it to the next round.
Did you think it was as wide open last year?
They did have more of a favorable run to the finals last year. It was probably very similar levels, but I just think it's different because this year they messed around in the regular season like any other year, and it feels like them being in this position would be first round exits, if not second round exits. And right now it just feels like them being the 6th seed. If they win this round, they could potentially get home court advantage as a 6th seed against the Lakers, the 7th seed. And then whoever comes out of that Suns Nugget series, like, it just seems doable as a 6th seed that they can get to the finals. Last year they were a 3 seed, and I felt like it was about the same. Like it was a similar path to the finals in terms of it being open or not. But I just think, them this specific season doing what they did in the regular season, which was and it feels like they have an actual shot. Like, they can't squander it.
What do you think about this Memphis and Lakers series? You think the Lakers are going to close out at home?
I had them in 7. To be honest, like that was tough for me to pick them in 7 too, because Memphis would have gotten that game 7 at home. But I mean, Ja's been incredible. That was kind of like my X factor in the series. Ja's going to be the best player, but the Lakers didn't have anyone to throw on him. So I just thought he was going to have a great series. I thought it was mainly, we talked about this. I thought it was mainly going to be, they're going to get silly Jaren Jackson Jr. in foul trouble. And once he's out of the game, it's over. Like they need that guy to hold down the rim, especially with Steven Adams out, especially with Brandon Clark out. And that foul trouble hasn't totally happened like I thought it would. But man, Anthony Davis, when he's healthy, that guy is like I don't know, you could say top 10, top 12 player. I think, and I feel like LeBron hasn't completely had like this dominant, insanely dominant game. Although Bill Simmons talked about him in game 5, how good he was. But even then, it was like felt like a passive scoring game from LeBron, where I think it was his rebounds that were a really high number. But my overall thoughts on that series, I don't know. It just feels like, obviously another one of those series where star goes down in the first game, still is visibly hurt, and the other team's taking advantage of it like they should. I don't think it's all because of that. I still would have had that's why I picked the Lakers in 7. I thought they could do it, just pound for pound against the Memphis. But I don't know. I would be a little worried about Los Angeles.
They beat the Warriors 3 out of the 4 times, didn't they?
Yeah, Steph was only there for like 2 of them though.
Yeah, the Warriors did not match up, except I think they beat the Lakers on opening day.
Game 1, yeah, opening night when they still had Russ, we still had Wiseman, completely different teams. But I will say, like, if there was, it's not a major takeaway, but a takeaway is that, like, if it wasn't clear that Moses Moody jumped Jonathan Kuminga in the rotation for this series before, like, it's completely clear right now. Like, he got, 4
That might
minutes.
be different if they do move on, though. Lakers are a little
I don't
bit
think
longer.
so. I don't think so. I think Jonathan Kuminga's worst games this season were against the Lakers, when Vanderbilt just matched up against him and said, we do the exact same thing, I just do it better. And I just felt like Kuminga couldn't do anything against the Lakers. If you go rewatch those games, I genuinely believe they were the 2 worst Jonathan Kuminga games.
I just think you're going to need
the size, yeah.
A couple different guys on LeBron. That's why I think that he might get a little bit more action. But not to get ahead of ourselves, because they still have 2 more games, possibly 2 more games. So they play Friday in San Francisco. It is a 5 p.m. start.
Wow.
Because I think the Lakers are the late game. So the Warriors are at 5, Lakers are at 7, I guess. And so, yeah, that's a kind of a crazy start, early start for the Bay Area. That I hope people can actually get to the arena on time if it's at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
At Chase.
I feel like, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but I think a big reason is because I thought, like, if they win game 5, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, like, I think that sends a message that is like, we're done messing around. How we did it throughout this podcast that I mentioned, every single podcast, is they would lose 3 away games. It felt like the sky was falling. They'd win 3 home games. It felt like we were going to win the championship. It never felt like, it was never like we win 3 home games and then we go and win 2 away games. It was never like that the entire regular season. It was truly a home away split. You could look at the away record. You could look at the home record. It was just like that the entire season. And for them to go win that game 5, a must win, maybe the most important game of the entire series for them, I just think that means they're ready for business. I think that should send an alert to the entire league that, the champs are back. And so I think if they win game 6, like, to me, they showed me that they're ready for business. Obviously, if they lose game 6, like, they were messing around. What the hell are they doing? We're back in that whole thing. But I think if they go ahead, they won game 5. If they go and win game 6 and they take care of business, they understand that, like, if we just even let it get to game 7, our opponent could potentially finish in 6 and they'll have extra days off. We want to make sure we, get those extra days off and not them. Like, I think that whole stuff has to be in the back of their mind while they're playing the Sacramento Kings team. And I just think that, you pair that with the home record and you pair that with all that other stuff of, they need to take this game seriously because, the Lakers could win on Friday and they couldn't, and the Lakers get that extra couple days of rest, whereas the Warriors would have to play a game 7 and both teams are very old.
So if the Warriors move on, the earliest the playoffs or the earliest the next round would start would be Sunday, I believe. But that is not set in stone yet because they're still waiting to see what happens in these games, because these games.
You're telling me
game 7.
If the Warriors and the Lakers win on Friday, they would play on Sunday?
I don't know. I'm saying that's the earliest they would play. The schedule says May 1st and May 2nd, but depending on the length of the opening round series it could have been the 29th or the 30th. I I kind of wonder if they would want that Sunday game just
That's
because it
like
would
the
be
12:30 start.
yeah, it'd be a great
They
for the
love
ratings,
that.
but they could move it to Monday and say we're just starting on Monday too. So, all right, let's. Was there any butt cheek game, butt cheek moment of the game?
There was a couple almost. There's always going to be some almost though.
We mentioned that in the beginning. The Warriors they had a couple of possessions in the fourth quarter that were a little sloppy. They had the 2 take fouls, which Jordan Poole's take foul was kind of like one of those "come on, bro" moments with Jordan Poole.
Yep,
Uh,
that was a take foul.
yeah, that was absolutely a take foul. He just grabbed I think it was Monk,
Ms.
just
Monk, yeah.
grabbed his wrist like he was ready to go fast break, and Jordan Poole just grabbed his wrist. For the Kings, I didn't think of a moment, but man, like there were just Harrison Barnes. He could not get going. Keegan Murray outside of the first quarter, he didn't do much. And I guess, your closer, De'Aaron Fox, he's hurt. So I can't really say that there was a moment, but there was definitely some opportunities for those guys to play big in the end, and they didn't. And I sort of feel like the Warriors were ripe for it too. They looked so tired, and they were just kind of grinding out at the end, but they couldn't do. Sabonis. It's funny because I look at Sabonis's numbers, and he's at 21-10, and I was like, the guys like Sabonis who get them the points the way that he got them, the Warriors don't care because he's not keeping possessions alive. He's getting put in switches and they're taking him to the rim. There was that one where Steph beat him and Steph tried to goad him into the and one and then he missed the layup and Steph got mad at himself. But he has to be on the court for them because he is their best interior player. But I almost wonder for the Kings, like, what kind of game does Sabonis have where where you believe that is good for the Kings and not good for the Warriors?
Yeah. Good. I mean,
Is
you
it
say that Sabonis is their best player, their best big on the court. Those Alex Len minutes are still looking good.
he plays those spurts. He's only playing spurts. He's
Yeah, he's
playing
only playing
like
Spurs. But those
he
two lineups that we talked about, they're still plus. They're still plus 15 and plus 10. They're best plus lineups in the playoffs. Only 15 minutes.
He only played 11 minutes today. Trey Lyles played 13. Trey Lyles hit the 1-3. But yeah. Sabonis, he's got to play. But I think the Warriors like playing players like him who, in order for them to get their action going, it's just a lot of dribbling. It's a lot of shoulders into the body. It's just a struggle for him to even get a shot up, for even to get in that.
Yeah.
This isn't like Giannis, getting the ball at the high post and then able to Euro step and is at the rim. Sabonis, it's so much harder for him to get there. And
I
they're
just
just
I Yeah, I just have no clue. Like, I feel like a lot of people who are watching a lot of who watched a lot of Kings games in the regular season. I watched probably like a handful, like 5 to 7, maybe. It felt like Sabonis wasn't this kind of like ball stopper. It felt like he would keep the offense moving, the ball moving, kind of like how they do that DHO stuff, where he'd be in the Draymond role, kicking
yeah.
it to the cutter or kicking it to the open shooter. He'd be more willing to take those mid range shots. Like, it's just like, although like, yeah, the Warriors love playing against this type of player. I don't think he's supposed to be this type of player.
Well,
They just like goaded him into being
they
this type
took
of
away the
player.
whole action though, right? By
Mm-hmm.
dropping their center or whoever's guarding him in the middle of the paint, they take everything away. But the thing that I saw a lot of today is also their perimeter defenders, the Warriors perimeter defenders were trying to get out and stop Sabonis from having the option to even drop the ball off. So he had a couple of possessions where he's like looking and he's pivoting and it's not there. And he's like, okay, 15-footer. And he made a couple, but at the same time, that is not the action that gets them going. Like they want to score in a different way than, spot up 15-footers that this guy does not want to take. But yeah, I mean, it's been masterful the way that they've defended him so far. And if you're a Kings fan, you probably go, "Oh, he had 21-10. He had a good game." I I could see that some of it was empty, and it's kind of when you watch Fox do his thing and you watch Monk do his thing, and how quickly they can score, and then they kind of dump it to Sabonis and just pump fake, shoulder. He's not he's not he doesn't have great, like, I would say his post moves aren't fantastic, but he can still get to where he needs to get. It just is a lot harder for him. So
What if it's pulling Sabonis and you go Keegan Murray or HB small ball 5? You say, let's do it.
I think you might be able to get away with Harrison, because I think Harrison is a smart defender. But I think the Warriors would just tool Keegan Murray.
Yeah,
He's just not ready yet. So that's what's stopping. And you have to do, because Sabonis, at least defensively, he may get matched up against Steph, but he's game for it, right? He's gonna go out there, and Steph may dribble circles around him and get to the rim finally, like he did at the end there, where he just took like 19 seconds or whatever off the clock to dribble in circles and then make a layup that he got fouled.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I would love to know if there are Kings fans who kind of have some ideas for options for what they could do. But yeah, it's not. You can't say it's not working, because these games are close and they're in it, and this series is close. But it just kind of goes back to how they figured out the Boston series last year, where they were down 2-1, and then they just won. They just grinded out those 3 wins in a row. And here, it almost feels like the same thing, where they like figured some things out, and then they just know that man for man, eventually, because basketball is 48 minutes, their players are going to outscore the Kings players, whether it's by 1 point or 5 points or whatever. They just feel that they're going to be able to do it. And that's kind of how the playoffs work. So yeah, I guess the last thing that we should talk about is game 5 or game 6. There's a couple ways that this thing goes, I think. The Kings come out smoking, and they just kind of go, what do we got to lose here? We need to change the tempo. We need to do something. Like Mike Brown keeps saying, fast, 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 fast. And they just, don't give a crap, and they just play confidently. But the other way that this game could go is just kind of the opposite way. And they are tight, and they are not feeling great. And the Warriors could run away with game 6. I don't know what running away with a game in this kind of series looks like, just because the Kings are so talented offensively. Could it be more like game 3? I think it could look a little bit more like game 3. The one caveat to that I would say is if Steph's tired, because I mean, you want to close out and you want your best player to be on the court, but it was almost like Kerr said, "This is the game that we have to get, and then we'll figure out game 6 later." Like I don't think Steph is going to play the. Today he played 42 minutes. I don't think he plays 42 minutes in game 6, just because they're at home, and I think they'll feel a little bit more comfortable, and maybe he'll be okay with pulling Steph 2 minutes here and there, one more time than he did. But Fox also played 42 minutes, so
Steph was game high in minutes played.
And yeah, but then the other thing is, is Fox's finger gonna feel okay?
Yeah.
He was shaking it. So lots of different ways that it can go. I do think the Warriors are going to win this game. I would be happy if it was like game 3 rather than game 4. So I'm pretty like, it just in the back of my mind, I just think that they've figured them out enough to where they know that they're winning these games in the way that they're doing. So they're just confident that they're going to win at the end.
Yeah, I mean, there's like there's a true potential or true, like I feel like you could probably confidently say that this Warriors team, had they had everyone healthy for the entire season, was not a 6 seed. Um, and I think I'm with you that they might have figured something out against the Kings. I think the Kings are giving it, like, kind of just giving it their all, and I feel like some unfortunate injuries are happening. Like, like how, like, everyone's like banged up in the playoffs, and you never really hear about it. Like, I didn't know that Steph had his like a MCL sprain or whatever the heck he had in previous playoffs. Like, I feel like that's the Kings right now. I feel like you could probably go down the line to like all their guys, like, yep, dealing with like a busted ankle, dealing with a, like, I just feel like, yeah, they're just like battling their heart out right now, and
I mean, but
probably for both sides.
that's part of the journey for the team who's been there, right? Is they know,
Yeah,
okay, things are going to happen. And for the Kings, the first time, so some unlucky stuff with Fox's finger, but it's just like, okay, like this is a learning period for them. Now, if they go and take the next 2 games, then they sort of learned all in one series.
yeah.
But that is the journey. That is the long road of the playoffs. And
Yeah, I think just my main thing is that, like, if Wiggins played 70 games, if Steph played 65 games, like, we might be in a completely different position here. We might have been playing Phoenix as the 5, and we were the 4 seed, they were the 5 seed, and we had home court advantage. Like, I truly do believe that, like, injuries happen to everyone, but I feel like we got a tough run at it this season with the injuries, and Wiggins missing a lot of time for a non-injury.
Draymond, after the game, called Loon a calming presence, just like Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston. So to go back to your greatest role player, he had Looney in the same breath as Sean and Andre. So there you
Like,
go.
someone better write a Loon book.
What about
Like,
Loon? Loon could write his own book.
he's no, don't touch it, man. Get Marcus Thompson, write the story. They always talk about it on the podcast how, like, Loon's like, they drafted his replacement. They were like trying and to get, like, not like purposely get rid of him, but like upgrade. And he just kept sticking around, man. I love the Loon story.
All right, so I don't think we're going to be back Friday. If we have to come back Sunday, maybe we can come back Sunday for the recap. But hopefully for the Lakers series, we'll be able to do more post game recaps because they're a little shorter. This one was a little bit longer. I try to shoot for like the 30-minute ish mark, but so. If they close it out, probably no more of these until the Lakers series. If they do not close it out,
Hey,
go to a game 7.
could be Grizzlies.
Oh yeah, you're right. Could be Grizzlies. Because it's 3-2 now. We may be back Sunday, but we want winners. We'll be back on Sunday. Roderick and I are going to do the post-draft show on Sunday. So lots of content here on BSPN. So so sorry, I was looking at a comment. Robert Ramos just wanted to make sure that Friday's game is at 5. That's what I heard, that the game was going to be at 5 because of the Lakers. So
It's still last time I checked, it was TBD. Did they announce it?
I don't think so. They have not. Yeah, it just says no. They did. They announced it 5 p.m. Eastern on ESPN.
There we go. Yep, so there it is.
Yep. So Robert, that answers your question.
Not 5 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
8 p.m. Eastern. 8 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. There's your answer. So we'll be back at some point. We'll figure it out when these series are over, and we'll have a little bit of a better schedule if the Warriors do make it to round 2. But for Brian, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.